My family and I were living in New Mexico, and a very wooded area, and the fire department was doing a controlled burn in the forest, which they do every now and again to help prevent fire actually from starting. And it very quickly became uncontrolled. Some people came around and they're like, "Hey, look, we got this fire, and it's become a little bit uncontrolled. You might want to go home and pack up some things for the night, just in case. You never know." And it was miles from where we lived, so we just figured it's just a precaution. They probably do this all the time, being that we live in a wooded area. So we went home, and I was a kid. I was a teenager, so I just packed up stuff that I would take to a sleepover, and we went and stayed with family, friends of ours, about 45 minutes away, and in their RV at their home. And all I can really remember about that night was how bad the winds were that evening. All throughout the night, we just all laid there together, actually, in bed, all four of us, and our dog, just listening to the winds and praying that the winds would stop. But that next morning, the people that we were staying with, they knocked on the RV door, and they just told us that it was gone. The house was gone, and it was completely leveled. There was nothing left really to go back to. Yeah, we went back. We just needed to see if there was anything that we could salvage from it, but there wasn't. There was nothing. There was nothing there. It was just ash. And the Red Cross was actually there pretty quickly. They were there that day, and there were several families affected by this fire, so they had set up tents with meals, provide meals for the families, and they brought little things that really at the time I was a teenager, so what I thought was important at the time. So like clothes and like teddy bears and stuff like that they brought me. But it was really, because we're obviously in shock. We were all in shock, and you just couldn't believe that you weren't going home again. There's no home to go back to. But it was really, and this is what I always tell people about the Red Cross in my experience, it was the emotional support that was really needed, because you couldn't replace anything that we had lost. And giving us the survival kits and all that was wonderful, because we needed that, and we otherwise would not have had it. But it was the emotional support that I found to be most important to me, and that's what I carry with me about the Red Cross. 10 years later, I was at work, and I was living in a really cool unit, actually, a condo in Greensboro, and it was an older unit, and I was technically living, you can say, like in the basement unit. You had to walk downstairs to get to it. I got a call from my neighbor, and she was like, Christina, it's getting bad down here. There's some water accumulating. You might want to come home. And I was like, okay. I mean, it's raining, but it rains all the time. It had rained that hard before, so I thought nothing of it. And about 10-15 minutes later, she called me again. She said, Christina, you have to get home immediately. They're sending a fire and rescue team to get your dog out. And that's when it became real to me. But when I got there, I understood, because you couldn't even see my condo. It was completely underwater. The stairs were underwater. You couldn't see the door handle. But they told me that the fire team was on the way and that they were going to get him out. So they came, and they swam down there and broke the door down, got Eli out. And they told me later that he was on the couch surfing. When I finally did go in and survey it, it was so much worse than my experience with the fire. But with the flood, it was very much in my face, the things that I had to get rid of. My mom would hold something out and say, what do you want to try and do with this? And it would be like, what is that? Like, I couldn't even make out exactly what it was. And I'm like, oh, that's that thing I've had since the fire, because I saved so many things from the fire. I actually ended up losing the flood. The Red Cross came, I think it was the next day or the day after, and they brought their survival kit. I was like, oh, I've seen that before. And I think that it made me cry even harder when I saw them again, because it was like deja vu from 10 years prior. But it was just, their emotional support was there again, and they get it. I mean, they understood it. It can really happen to you, and you have to take yourself out of that. You have to say, you know what, it could happen to me. And if it did happen to me, what would I want? Would I want the Red Cross to help me? Yeah, of course, you're gonna want someone to help you.